Java is strictly, almost strictly object-oriented. In terms of operators overloading, you can't overload them. There is no preprocessor in Java, as you know. And main advantages, capabilities of the language, very powerful. In particular, execution efficiency. This Java comes with a lot of features which are not provided in C++, in particular graphics libraries are very rich in Java. And the C++ communities try to incorporate some graphics, but it's not probably coming to be. Okay, so we have those old tables. It's good to have this general overview. And then, what, if anyone asks you, what is an object-oriented programming language? You can write or solve a problem either with C++ or with C. Any problem you can solve with C++, you can solve with C as well. The problem is how much more effort you have to involve in order to solve the problem. How much effort? You can simulate inheritance in C. It's not impossible, but the features presented in C++ are there to make the design of abstract types easier for the developers, right? So, mechanism to allow support for abstract data types, types you create because of the problem you try to solve. And in particular, how to use inheritance. This is what makes object-oriented programming distinct from all other mechanisms. So, an object is an abstract data type with polymorphism and inheritance. The most important features are this: encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. A programming language is considered object-oriented if it provides these three features, basically. And in terms of terminology, we have seen most, I think everything here was used at some stage in our discussion. What an abstract class is, abstract data type. We work with a lot of ignoring details which are not needed for your problem. So this is abstraction. What is an accessor in a class, base class? We talked about call by reference and call by value, pass by reference. They are related. Class data member, class inheritance, user of a class is called client. What is a concrete class as opposed to an abstract class? We use a compiler. Component, composition, component of types. We talked about constructors and you work with them. We talked about container classes and we have seen them in C++ and Java as well. Anyway, data hiding again is a part of both languages. As you can see, these are object-oriented terminology and they come into different syntax when you talk about C++ and Java, right? virtual function in C++ come with a virtual keyword, in Java with abstract keyword, right? So they are functions which are not implemented. When we looked into C++ and you did some examples, we talked about types and statements, function pointers and arrays, and classes. Up to this part was the topic for your term test. So you won't have direct reference in the exam to this part, but you will have to work with classes no matter what when you answer the questions in the exam. So if you have to implement the move constructor for a templated class, you can't avoid to use the knowledge coming from this part, right? But it's about templated class, so it's referring to the second part of the course. So practically, this part will come in various form in your exam, which I will go over in a second. I have seen people still using null instead of null pointer in the exam. I will deduct marks for this because we talked about null pointer. You still kept using a C-type null. This is not acceptable from an example answer in the final exam. So I will try to make sure that we are talking about C++ part. And right, so these were the generic, right. Starting with inheritance, exceptions, this will be part of the exam. This is the focus, and you will see. Class and function templates, we talked, and you have an assignment about that, and I assume that you know how to write functions. And classes, which are class templates and templated function templates. And we talked about standard template library. And we looked at these three groups, which are the main components. I would recommend you to pay close attention to vectors because you will be asked to write some code about vectors. Plus algorithm. Have a look at the examples I have given, the code examples. You will see to work with this a little bit. There were tutorial questions dealing with that. You have sample solutions. I am working on Java sample solution because the tutor is at a conference and we are behind a little bit. So we talked about these issues and you have seen code example, you have practiced mostly in the tutorial with this. So I hope that you will manage. C++ keywords, the bold one were the one we have used, except probably we haven't used the AND operator, which is required for functions which take, probably you remember, the third argument of function. We have in standard template library accumulate, or we can write ourselves functions which have iterator start, iterator end, and take a function to apply to each element in the container. The third element is, the third parameter is a function. And to provide for that situation, you can't pass a symbol as a third element. they have included in standard template library Boolean function end, which does exactly what the operator end does. But this is just for information. You are not required to work with end in your exam. It's there. Not is the same thing. We have touched on, you have seen examples of auto, everything, bool, these are parting of part bool, float, int, somewhere, int. We have talked about types, we have talked about break and case, cases for switch statement. So whatever is in type bold, I assume that you will be able to use it. Now, these are part of the language, but we haven't talked about that. Mentioned this, didn't work with that. Notice that lately characters come in different sizes. Normally we work with 8 bits characters. This is a basics workflow characters, but then we have 16 bits, 32, 64. There are 3 flavors, and then because of that, strings come in 3 flavors. The one which are groups of chars, or the one which are groups of char 16 or char 32. So there are many things which were added to the language for efficiency reason. Again, have you looked at this table? It was on stream. Do you see any keyword here which wasn't used in any of our discussion? Have you seen anything here? In bold? If it's not in bold, we haven't covered it. Yep. So I assume that any question referring to this will be answered. Java and design patterns were the last topics we have covered, and hopefully by now you have run Java programs. You know what Java virtual machine is and what it does. We looked at basic syntax, types, variables, how to perform input output in Java. This is just for your information, input output. It requires a lot of more reading, so I don't have questions about this part in the exam, but from here there are exam questions. Java classes, we have examples, and what are the differences between abstract classes and interfaces. Java inheritance versus C++ inheritance exceptions. We have seen some examples, and the last topic, generics, collection, and collections. These were covered. Design patterns, you have seen a simple example, what a pattern is, and the singleton example is what we covered last lecture. There is, as I said, a true and false question about design patterns, so it's good to go over that part. In terms of Java keywords, again, what is in bold was used in some of the lectures or the examples of the tutorials, right? What is not in bold, it means it wasn't used. What is interesting to see, Java constant is a reserved word. It's not used in the language at all, but it's reserved for, who knows, future use. Go to, again, it's not used at the moment, but they reserve it. We talked about instance of, even if it's not in bold. So we have covered most of the used Java keywords. Any keyword here which you think you haven't seen before? Think about, you can take, send me email and stuff. Assessment. We have 2 assignments with 2 parts and an optional assignment. You will get 1 mark for all your assignments. 1 mark when I enter the marks in the final system, student management system. You will get 1 mark, which will be out of 100. That mark counts to 20% of your final mark. And then the test, I am working on this this week. I will enter the test in the student management system, but you have the marks for your test on stream in a spreadsheet. And this is 1/5 of your final mark. And the exam is 60%, which in the end adds to 100. Half of this is a pass mark. It's a C-, I think, considered. So half of the total final mark. If you get 50%, you are pass. For the A pluses, probably you have to get more than 90%, from what I remember. Okay, so be aware, many people try to get some boost to their assignment marks but you have to be aware it's just 1/5. The bulk of your final mark comes from this. Assignments can be done in groups. They don't count too much for your final mark. Be aware of this. Even if you get full percent here and you get just how much? Half of this and half of this, 30 plus 10 is 40, plus 20 is 60. It's good, but you have to get half of the exam. Based on the past, people who got less than 40% of the final exam didn't pass. It's between 40 and 50% of final exam. In general, people who got bad results here did not catch up with the exam. There were cases when there were students in the past who did not sit the exam but got 50% of the final exam. With 50% of the final, 90%. So they got 50 from here and something like 10 from here, and they passed. So it's possible. But getting a very good mark in the final exam requires, and it proves that you know the material. Everything is online, lecture, demo code. Please look at this files with code if you haven't done it so far. It was there to help you with your assignments and understanding. The tutorial questions for which you will have all sample answers. Just reading like a novel doesn't help because it goes this way and goes out that way. You have to try to add something new or try to see, can you find a different solution? Can you improve on that solution? So try to use your brain to work a little bit. Assignments, pay attention or where you lost marks, or if you missed some assignment, see whether you can read and try to make sure that you would know how to solve them. I have office hours on Wednesday, I think your exam is on 5th or 6th of November. It's in November 6th, if I am not wrong, in the afternoon. So I have set a day for office hours from 10 to 13. If you come between these hours, you can come with no appointment or nothing. I will be in my office answering your questions. If you have exams or you can't make this, send me email to arrange a different time. I aim to put all the marks before the exam, so by November 5th you will have all the marks in the stream, except exam, of course, but all other marks should be there. If you notice any error, please send me email with your ID, what the error is, and I will check. For exam date and location, I think it's 6th of November in auditorium, which is an auditorium room. But check your stream. A good place to practice is look at past exam papers for 2, 3, 4, and past exam papers were set up by different people at different time. I taught 2, 3, 4, so I set the exam last semester, last year, first and second semester. If you practice with these 3, you will be okay. Plus, you know there is an exam in your stream, exam paper in your stream with solutions, so you can check. What is, you find these exam papers in the library. The library, if you go and log in at the library, you can search for past exam papers. Most of the courses have their exam papers in electronic form there. And how to check that your answers are correct, the best way is use a computer. If you run out of time, you can come to my office and we can check. Right, so library, past exam, last semester, the year before, 2017, first and second semester. They were questions set by myself. So I have not reused the questions, you will see. I changed the questions a little bit, but some questions are similar, and it's a good practice. Try to solve this. You are not allowed with calculators because you don't need them. How to prepare all materials from the beginning of the semester. Be aware, as I said, you will have to work with overloading, output operator, input operator, move constructor, move assignment, things like that. So be aware that you have to review everything. Code example, all assignment. What is the topic for exam? Exam covers in particular this last part, but C++ classes, which was before the test, is definitely something you have to know. It's good to be prepared. You still have something like all 3 weeks or more. Organize your notes, make sure you have everything. Try to identify where you have some weak points. Test yourself. Try to finish your studies a day before. Don't read to the last moment because your brain will be very tired. During the exam, try to underline the keywords. Make sure that you answer what is asked for, because I have seen people writing main function and the full class implementation when the only thing which was asked was to declare a variable of a type, specific type, for example, or implement overloading operator function. And then they put things which were not there. In principle, I don't deduct marks for cases where you write things which are not asked for, but it takes your time. Useless somehow. Start with what you know, or you think is easy. Oh, sorry. Gosh. In order to make sure that you have a lot of marks there are 6 questions. You have to answer all of them. At the end, you have it's 3 hours exam. The questions can be solved in 2 hours easily if you know the material, but if not, then you might need more time. Reserve 10 minutes to make sure that you have answered all questions, because sometimes people forget something. And the exam looks like this. First page, semester 2, for all questions, don't bother with including the file names and namespace STD. Even when you answer the question, forget about it. You can assume that this was there. Start writing what is asked for. Write your answer in a blue answer booklet. You will get a blue answer booklet. Not remove any part of the question. They will collect the question at the end. You are not allowed to take home the questions. It will appear in the library anyway. University library. So it's 100, which counts for 60%. And there are 6 questions. So I will go, I have prepared some simplified form. So this is the first page you have seen. Right. First question will be 20 from A to P, true and false questions. For each of the following statements, write T for true or F for false in your booklet. And questions are like this. A destructor of a class is a special method that is automatically called each time an instance of that class is going out of scope. Is true or false? True. So you say Q1 A T. This is all you are asked to write. Okay. So it's something like Q1, and then for A it's true. For B you can write it next with comma. B it's C. It's true or false. Let's say true, and so on. And you will have P types. Okay. Because there are 20, you will get a little bit probably overwhelmed. I would suggest split it in 2. Answer the first 10, and then answer a different question and answer the next 10. So you don't get, because it's jumping all over. C question, Java question, pattern question, whatever. So all you have to do is true and false. It's 20 marks. As you can see, each question will be 1 mark. It's correct, you get 1. It's not correct, you get 0. The next one will be generic. The reason I put them like that is because I don't want to go over the next page, so I try to fit each question in the most 1 page. It's not topic related organization. So you have a generic programming. You will be given some code, and there is a question in the past exam, I think 2017 or 2016, similar. You will be given the class, more methods here, and whatever. Size T, we have talked about size T, is unsigned integer, so it's part of the language. And here is some codes that show how such stack can be used. Write the declaration, not the implementation, the declaration for a class template that implements a stack. So based on this, you have to get this code and change it to a templating class for this part. And then the destructor. You get the code for the destructor of this class, and you have to convert it to the template. The destructor for the templated class you have written here. So it's clear. You have the listing of the class here. You have the implementation of the class. So it's good to read all the question and then start solving. This is based mostly on your assignment 2, part 2. Okay, and then write the definition of some operator. Definition means implementation. Overload some operator. Definitions means implement the function. Overload some operator. Write a declaration of the variable of that type. So this is generic programming and mostly based on your assignment 2, part 2. Inheritance. You will be given 3 classes like this. A base class, B is derived from A, as you can see, C derives from B. And then you will have here full code prototypes and the variable declarations. And then you will be given 3 other functions here with some code. And you have, each statement is numbered like this. S1, S2, S3 up to S6, I think, and then S7 here, 8, 9, and you have 21 statements. The number for the statement is here, right? Not so difficult. And all you have to do is, in each of the 3 functions here, B, G1, H2, and main, some of the statements, which are from S1 to S2, will compile, some will have errors. And all you have to do is refer to the one with errors. For each statement that will produce an error, list its number and the reason it is wrong. And you have an example. S21. C.H2 is illegal, not the assignment illegal, but C.H is illegal because this method H2 is private, protected, or whatever in class, so it is not available, or Y is not correct. So this is 15 marks, and the marking is, you get something if you just say this is illegal, but it's half of the mark, and for the reason why it's illegal, you get the other half. So if you don't know the reason, doesn't matter. At least say it's illegal or not. All right, so this refers to inheritance. Then polymorphism. You will get here some classes, a base class, a derived class, another derived class. You will see all classes are fully implemented. There are questions like this in the past. Kid and mother. Mother was a base class, kid was a derived class, some other things. And then it's public and public. It was a mistake, but it doesn't matter because it does not affect the result. So don't get panicked. This is wrong. It's not wrong. It's doesn't matter. The part of the data member can be public in the base. If it's abstract class, who cares, because it can't be implemented anyway. But it's like that, and then you have derived classes, and what you have to do, exact output, and it tests when the constructor is called, when the destructor is called, when overloaded function is called. So you have examples like this in the past. And then we have Java programming. You will be given some sentences about Java programming, and you have to write the missing words. There will be sentences with one word missing, like saying a collection of items of the same type is part of the collection type. Your collection is missing. You have to write collection or algorithm or try or whatever. So 6 such missing words. Read carefully the sentences and make the best of the word to be put there. And this is 10 marks. And then you have a class with a derived class, and you have to write the implementation of some method which is listed in the base class or in the derived class mostly, and then implementation of some method in the derived class. And this is based on the optional assignment. And it's in principle referring to, do you know how to use super? Do you know how to implement to string? But pay attention to the example code you have been given. So this is another 10 marks, something like 5 and 5. And the last one, it's about STL short questions. Which STL container would you choose if you need to insert everything in the middle, for example? You have to say list, okay? B is the same thing. And then C, D, and E will write you to write code. And this refers, declare a variable of a list type, for example, list of integers, which is initialized to something and some value. So you have to know, look at the code I gave there. Write a function, name something to do something using an iterator. This is, again, some question you should answer based on the example in the lectures and in the tutorials. Write a function to use an algorithm. So pay attention at the lecture about algorithm in Java. Algorithm.h. It's algorithm in Java because this is about STL. So define in algorithm. This was a mistake. It's Java question, ignore H. And then write how many marks out of 100 you will think you will get out of this exam. Out of 100. So this will ask you to go over all your questions and assess yourself like you had it for the term test. And this will be 2 marks, I think. If you get it right, you get 2 marks. If you get it very wrong, probably you'll get 1 mark. Anyway, so this is what you will have fun with in the lecture. 3 hours, you will be, you'll have enough time. Any questions? Yes?
Can you write pencil or is it?
Sorry?
Can you write pencil?
You can write in any, yeah, pencil, pen, whatever. I don't care, because you don't get them back. You can write with anything. The exam questions stay with us. If you want to get a copy of your exam, you have to apply through the office. There is the examination page, how to apply, and what happens, the secretary comes and makes a scan of your exam paper and sends you back. And if you discover that the addition was wrong, you can point it out, but I don't think that you will be able to get more than check the addition. I will look at those questions myself again and see whether I have missed some question or stuff like that. So yeah, tomorrow we will talk about what do you think. of using object-oriented programming methodology, what is good, what is bad, because it's nothing perfect, as you know. Who is teaching what next semester and what other opportunities are there, and hopefully what you will remember in 5 years from this 12 weeks of lecturing. Thank you very much. So, tomorrow we'll meet. Friday there is no tutorial. I will try to finalize the exam, the test, no, the tutorial question, the answers for tutorials, put them on stream. Try to work on the optional assignment. Okay? There is no help for that, but if you are really, really difficult, we can talk during my office hours today or some other time if you want. Thank you very much, and good luck with all your studies. See you tomorrow, hopefully, and thank you for coming today. Right. We don't have lecture, but on 31st of October. Why, you can make it? Okay. Right, so Wednesday 31st of October, I try to collect all your questions and come on Wednesday, and if not possible, I said, send email and wait. So you have got your mark, right? Yeah, good.
少个地方。